Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 107, noes 0.
The bill is passed.
Assembly 10,721A, Rules Report 551, Committee on Rules. Concurrent resolution of the Senate and Assembly proposing an amendment to Article 14 of the Constitution.
Record the vote. Mr. Daniel Steck to explain his vote.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to explain my vote. I want to thank the chairman of the Environmental Conservation Committee, my good friend Steve Engelbright, for his hard work, his and his staff's hard work these last couple weeks, and in particular the last 4 or 5 days, to bring this bill in concurrence with the Senate version. This bill is very important to the Adirondacks and the Catskills, the forest preserves. It gives a little more flexibility to our local government partners while simultaneously protecting the integrity of the forest preserve. And so I thank the chairman for his work on this and his diligence and everything that he's done. And I know that it means a great deal to myself and the senator, but more importantly to the 102 towns of the Adirondacks. This has been on their wish list for a long time, and so we're pleased to see first passage about to happen. And so I will be voting in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Daniel Steck in the affirmative. Mr. Engelbright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to explain why I'm voting yes. And recommending a yes vote on this bill. As Mr. Steck has explained, this has required a good deal of work. It began really last summer with the courteous invitation of Mr. Steck to visit himself and his communities to see firsthand some of the considerations that this measure is meant to address. I had an opportunity also to work with your staff. I had an opportunity to work also with Senator Little's staff. And all around, this is a good Albany story. Working across the aisle, working with colleagues toward a common goal to protect not only the people of this region, but also the park, the greatest park, arguably in the United States of America. And I'm pleased to vote yes and look forward to continuing, as this is a multi-step process, to continuing this cooperation.
Mr. Engelbright in the affirmative. Mr. Lopez to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to give my thanks to Chairman Engelbright and to Mr. Steck for their leadership. Catskill Park is also included in this legislation. And in speaking with my colleagues who help manage the everyday affairs in that region, they see this bill as a helpful tool to allow them to maintain quality of life and practical considerations of life and living within the park, the Catskill Park. So I do want to thank the sponsor and the team, which was a very broad and diverse team, for their patience, their diligence, and their excellent work. I'll withdraw my request and vote in the affirmative.
Mr. Lopez in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 114, noes 0.
The resolution passed.
Assembly 409B, Calendar 29, Mr. Dinowitz, an act to amend the civil service law.
On a motion by Mr. Dinowitz, the Senate bill is before the House. The Senate bill is advanced. Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. Mr. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 99, noes 8.
The bill is passed. Mr. Morelli.
Thank you, sir. If I could take the next two bills up in this order. Calendar number 56 on page 23 of the main calendar by Mr. Magnarelli. We'll follow that with calendar number 588 on page 54 by Mr. Brennan.
Clerk will read.
Assembly 1205C, Calendar 56, Mr. Magnarelli, an act to amend the general municipal law.
On a motion by Mr. Magnarelli, the Senate bill is before the House. The Senate bill is advanced. Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. Mr. Cahill to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of us in this House worked long and hard over the past couple of years to try to find that level of agreement between our houses and with the various stakeholders to allow ride-sharing companies to bring their businesses to upstate New York. We failed to do that this year, and I was very disappointed in that, as were many other people. However, during the course of our investigation, into what we wanted to do, we found many problems that existed and needed to be addressed. One of them we discovered was already being addressed in a piece of legislation by one of our colleagues, Mr. You-know-who, whose name is on that board. I'm happy tonight that we are able to assure that should ride-sharing transportation network companies ever come to upstate New York and the rest of New York, that we will now in statute assure their ability to regulate. I salute the sponsor for his foresight, and I withdraw my request and vote in the affirmative.
Mr. Cahill in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 101, noes 3.
The bill is passed.
Assembly 3874B, Calendar 588. Mr. Brennan, concurrent resolution of the Senate and Assembly proposing an amendment to Section 2 of Article 2 of the Constitution.
An explanation is requested. Mr. Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the board says, this is a constitutional amendment proposal. It would constitute first passage of this amendment, and it basically removes from the Constitution certain restrictions on this legislature's ability to set the terms under which people can vote by absentee ballot.
Mr. McKevitt.
Will the sponsor yield for, Mr. Kavanaugh, please yield for a few questions, please.
Mr. Kavanaugh, in behalf of Mr. Brennan, will you yield?
I would be happy as the pinch hitter.
Mr. Kavanaugh will yield.
As you noted in your explanation, I think people may be surprised that our requirements that we have for an absentee ballot are not actually in statute. They are in the Constitution. And you're right, it requires two interesting requirements that have been long held in the Constitution. In order to apply for that absentee ballot, you must be either absent from the county where you reside in the day of the election, or number two, you are unable to get to the polling place because of an illness or physical disability. Correct?
Thank you. Yes, I was trying to keep my explanation brief, but thank you for that addendum.
Okay. So, and what you're seeking to do in this amendment to the Constitution is remove those causes that you need, either absent from the county or the physical disability or illness, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I guess the issue I have with is that for many years, in order to have the absentee ballot, you need to do it for a cause. And what this amendment does is remove that for cause.
Well, what this does is remove. I think that we would say that the part about physical disability or illness is a specific cause in the Constitution. The other part of this is basically arbitrary. The notion that the question we should be asking is, are you within the county lines on election day, just seems like an arbitrary provision. Some counties are very large, and you could be hundreds of miles from home and still within your county. My county is a lot smaller, and you could be, not too distant at all. Actually, I should note that as this has been interpreted to apply to the city of New York as a whole. But you could be just outside the city. Somebody could be in Yonkers and live in the Bronx and be able to get an absentee ballot, but somebody else could be hundreds of miles from home and not be able to get an absentee ballot. This is a constitutional amendment. It eliminates these restrictions. There is a desire on the part of many people to see a more open system for granting people absentee ballots, but it still would be up to the legislature to set the terms of that, and it would obviously be some future legislature after second passage of this constitutional amendment.
But by removing the terms for cause, couldn't one make an argument that you can now convert the system to essentially a mail-in system? Because now that you remove any cause, you may say, well, now we may enact a system whereby we, like some states do, and you may argue we could differ on whether that's a positive or negative, that you could essentially just do it by several weeks beforehand, do it by mail, and never have to go to the ballot and not violate the law because you no longer have to have a cause.
If this constitutional amendment were passed by both houses and became part of the Constitution, and then a future legislature decided that a full mail-in system were desirable, yes, the fact that that would be possible.
Okay,
But
thank
again,
you
it
very
would
much.
require-
Mr. Speaker, on the bill.
On the bill, Mr.
You know,
McKevitt.
certainly for many years, we've determined that a person should come to the poll, and some people here have argued that there's some sort of a tradition in this country. You go to elections on election day. It's part of the culture, as part of our process. But certainly we've recognized that situations happen. People may be ill. There are people on a permanent absentee list many times because they may be in illness for many years, are able to get to the polling place, and we've certainly recognized that. The terms which are deleted in this amendment essentially removes any reason that one must give in order to go and get an absentee ballot, and essentially it turns it to a mail system, which to me is a very different system than we've had here for many years. So for that reason, I just want members to take into consideration this is more than just a simple amendment to the absentee ballot system. This can actually cause to convert to a brand new system, such as a mail-in system, when we have our elections instead. So just consider that on your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKevitt. Mr. Ray on the resolution? On the bill? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I spoke a little bit about this or referenced this legislation yesterday when we were talking about early voting. I believe this is the right way to go as opposed to early voting. And I use the example, my first job right out of college was working for Assemblyman Thiel's predecessor, a gentleman by the name of John Behan, who sat in this very chamber for many, many years. And he represented Montauk and lived in Montauk. And I still vividly remember to this day calling and asking for an absentee ballot. And I was told by the Board of Elections, well, why? And I said, well, I'm going to be at work, and I won't be able to make it to my home polling station, which happened to be in Suffolk County. Well, to get from Montauk, Long Island, to Huntington, Long Island, which happens to be in the same county, could take anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on traffic. So it was theoretically impossible for me to get home in time to vote after working a full day. It's for that reason I believe this is the proper way to go, and I will be supporting this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rea. Record the vote. Mr. Kavanaugh to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the hour is late, but I think I would be remiss if I, first of all, did not add my thanks and congratulations to the sponsor of this bill, who's been working on it for 6 years, and I know he's watching us at home, enjoying the fact that we're moving this as his last bill. I also would like to note that this is the last of a very long series of election reform bills that we've done in this House in the last few days. And that package was quietly assembled by our great election law chair, Michael Cusick. This really is a transformative package, and this is the last of the very big steps. So I just wanted to thank and congratulate him for all of that work as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I vote in the affirmative.
Mr. Kavanaugh on the affirmative.
Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 86, noes 29.
The resolution is passed. Mr. Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I can just give an update on where we are. We are currently preparing Ways and Means and Rules agendas. We'll have an additional Ways and Means and Rules. It probably will not be the last Ways and Means and Rules committee of the evening, but we're doing probably 2 of each just to move things along and to try to actually shorten the evening, as counterintuitive as that sounds. So while we wait for Ways and Means and Rules, which should be relatively soon, I just ask people to sort of stand in place. They want to go to the lounge for a few moments and relax, but don't wander off. So that gives you an idea.
State police have sealed the building.